Hi, my name is Amy Davis. I'm here in Oregon recording in my prayer room, one of my favorite places in the house. I want to share a couple of different things with you today. I want to share a message that the Lord has really been putting on my heart for quite some time, but I had some experiences this week that just really confirmed it, and I think it's time to share it. So I'm going to get to that in just a minute, but first I want to just touch base regarding a video blog that I just did about a week or so ago. I talked about learning to rule in the midst of our enemies. I talked about how we can learn to have freedom within the boundaries of captivity until we're free from those boundaries. I mentioned in that video blog that though the systems of this world will remain until the Lord returns and slays them with the breath of his lips, we can learn how to rule in the midst of our enemy. We really, truly can. And that's something the Lord is going to show us in this day. He's going to give us a revelation of what true freedom is. Freedom within the boundaries of the Lord and beyond the boundaries of man. And so I want to share a verse that I didn't share last time out of Isaiah 52. I had this sense over the last few weeks that there were many people that were feeling very oppressed and bound, not just because of the situations going on, politically around the world, but because of personal situations. I sensed there was a lot of heartache and sorrow. I was sensing that there are people that are desperate to get free of sickness and disease. Maybe it's a bad relationship that you want to be free from. And I want to give you an encouraging word out of Isaiah 52. And I want to pray for you before I get to the next part of this message. There's been a series of events that have taken place this week, which would take way too long to get into one blog. It's just been prophetic signs and dreams and actually a powerful encounter that my son and I both experienced. It took place really right here on this floor where I'm sitting now. And I can't get into all of the details of all of that, but it has been a mighty week. And during this week, there have been intercessors contacting me with different words of encouragement and words of encouragement corporately and for us and for, people that we know. And I'm so thankful for that. One of the words that was brought to us was this word, to break forth. And it really stood out to me because I had been, reading in Isaiah 52, which says, break forth, shout joyfully together. And that word really has stood out. And let me tell you what that word means. That word means to break out of a place. To break out of a place. So last week I shared about how we learn to have freedom within the boundaries of a place until we have freedom from that place. And there is I wrote this in my notes. Breakthrough is learning to rule in the midst of your enemies. Break forth means to break free out of that place. And I feel like that's a word for some of you, that there is a breaking forth that is about to happen, a breaking forth, and we can get excited about that. For some of you, you're still working on the breaking through. You're working on learning to rule in the midst of your enemies. Let me read to you Isaiah 52. Here's what it says. It says, awake, awake, clothe yourself in your strength, O Zion. Clothe yourself in your beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city. It goes down to say, shake yourself from the dust, rise up, O captive Jerusalem, loose yourself from the chains around your neck, O captive daughter Zion. And then it says, you were sold for nothing and you will be redeemed without money. Let me pause there and go to Galatians 5, where it says, it's for freedom Christ set us free. Therefore keep standing firm and do not be subject again to a yoke of slavery. Now keep that in mind, because here we have it where she's called, O captive daughter of Zion. And then it goes down several verses and it says this. Let me find it. Depart, depart, go out from there. Remember, I just said that there was a breaking forth, to break forth out of a place, to leave a place. We move from breaking through into the place of breaking forth. And I'm learning this week how important both of them are. Well, not just this week. I would say it's been over the course of several years But this week, they're very highlighted to me. And I know that it is a corporate message that there are many, many people desiring not only to learn to rule in the midst of it, but learning and desiring, how do I get free from it? Here's the verse. It says, verse 11, Isaiah 52, depart, go out from there, touch nothing unclean. Go out of the midst of her, purify yourselves, you who carry the vessels of the Lord. You will not go out in haste, nor will you go as fugitives. For the Lord will go before you, and the God of Israel will be your rear guard. So you will not go as fugitives. So here in the beginning, it was, O captive daughter of Zion. And now towards the end of it, no longer, you won't go as a fugitive. You see, leaving that place, you will have already experienced the breakthrough of freedom. And now you're going to break forth from it as a free person, as a free bird, as somebody wrote me. You will break forth from it as a free bird. That is so exciting. What a good word, that we don't just come to this place of breaking through, but there's also a breaking forth that takes place. That's so wonderful. Now, I'm going to go on to the next part of this, but before I do that, I want to pray for you, if that's you, and you are searching after this personal freedom. Now, let me be clear. In my last video blog, I talked about how the systems of this world will still have the boundaries of those systems, but the Lord is going to come and he will slay them with the breath of his lips. He will deal with those systems. But as individuals, we can be free from, we can be free. We can be free. What an amazing thought. The freedom is ours, and it's for freedom Christ set us free. It's for freedom. Don't go back again into a yoke of slavery. Not once you've been set free. Once we're free indeed. That's an amazing reality. You see, I believe that there is a revelation of freedom coming. Even though we have these systems of the world that are set up and the enemy seems to be just running rampant through them, we get to be lights that shine. And we get to go encourage people and call them out of those systems, call them out of those places and encourage them to shine like the brightness of the expanse of heaven. I wasn't going to, but I'm going to read this in Isaiah 62. Then I'm going to pray and move to the next part of this message. Isaiah 62 says this, for Zion's sake, I will not keep silent. For Jerusalem's sake, I will not keep quiet. And I feel this. I feel like some of you have shut your mouths and been quiet and said, I'm just not going to say anything. But it's time to make a little noise. Good noise. For the sake of the kingdom of God. Not noise for the sake of being noisy, but for the sake of the kingdom and for the sake of your hearts. I encourage you with this healing. Until her righteousness goes forth like brightness, and her salvation like a torch that is burning. If you follow any of our stuff, you know that I have talked for quite some time about how I was given 2 matchsticks, and one matchstick burned up the old way, the old system, the old format, the old things that don't work. And how we're given this second matchstick that lights the way to the one true revival. And I love this verse that says, in her salvation like a torch that is burning. And that second matchstick was very much like a torch. And we're very excited to get revelation of freedom, but also the revelation in this hour of what the new thing looks like. Still, there are so many trying to slightly change one little thing and call it something completely different. We don't have the blueprints and the full revelation from heaven about what this new thing will look like. But we do have pieces. And I want to share with you a piece of that. I had this dream. So we had several really powerful things happening in the house. I mentioned that. And the next night, I lay down to go to sleep, and I'm really just pulled into it. And I have a little short dream. I wake up. I tell Paul Keith, because he was still awake. I fall back to sleep. I have part 2. I wake up. I tell him, And I said to him, "Oh, you're going to remember that, right? Because I want to go back in. I don't want to write it down." But it didn't matter if he remembered or not, because it had been branded on my heart in the night. And what I was on a baseball field, and I've had several of these dreams with the baseball field, and I knew that it is a reminder to me, that Kevin Costner movie Field of Dreams, where he says, if you build it, they will come. And the Lord has really been speaking to us about, if you build it, well, we want to build the new thing. We want to be a light that shines in the darkness. We want to be carrying the torch that lights the way to the one true revival. We want to build according to what the Lord's perfect design. You see, we want to build the right thing. We don't want to go back in to an old way and an old system. And that's why that verse is so important, not just for you that are watching personally, but for all of us. The verse that says, it's for freedom Christ set us free. He burned up a lot of things in this last season. And that was for our freedom, for the sake of our freedom. You see, we're getting a revelation of that. And then it says, therefore keep standing firm and do not be subject again to the yoke of slavery. We don't want to go back into the old way of doing things. So I understood the baseball field was, if you build it, they will come. And of course I began to ask the Lord, build what? And the Lord spoke to me, and the Lord said, a safe place. We have a lot of names for what it is we're going to be building. We hear people talking about their part of the revelation that they've gotten. And I was asking the Lord just very simply, well, what is it, God? Show me more. And the Lord said, you're building a safe place. Let me explain. So I saw in this dream, this is first part of the dream, this like an 8 to 9 foot, very tall, angelic being, and he's holding these light orbs, these fireballs, I guess is what you could call them, and they look like massive size orbs. And he is launching them back over and over again. And I'll get to my understanding of what was going on. There was impartation that took place while I was standing there watching this happen. But throughout the night, every night vision I had these orbs that just filled the atmosphere. And throughout the night, I had a growing understanding of what the fireballs were, what the orbs were. And I'm going to read it from the journal entry that I wrote when the experience was over. I'm going to read it straight as I wrote it down. I saw many of these fireballs that had been hurled. I saw them swirling and decorating the unseen realm, looking for a place to land. And what were they? The fireballs were as a gift for the people. Now what I saw was spiritual gifts, heavenly gifts, hopes, dreams. Maybe the gifts were gifts of healing, gifts of discernment. Maybe it's a gift of joy for you whose heart is broken. They were gifts. They were, some of them were spiritual gifts and just special things from heaven. And some maybe might seem like just a small gift to one person, but it was the whole world to another person. And each fireball, each orb had like a specific place. Each gift had a specific place to land. And instantly I thought about that verse that I like that says, your gift will make a way for you and usher you into the presence of the great. I think I'm saying that right. Let me go on with the journal entry. I understood that the gifts were given to the trustworthy. These fireballs were connected to the character of the Lord, in that those that were given these gifts would know his character. You see, we are going to be building safe places. We must be a safe place. And we must be a place where we are encouraging people in the character of God, who he is. And that we would be a people of integrity. You see, people are constantly saying, I want to hear from God. I want to know his heart. I want to be trusted with his secrets. Well, one thing to that is that we need to be able to be trusted with secrets, to be a safe place, to be an encouragement to people. I'll go on. I quickly understood that a gift can only take us so far, but when the Lord breathes on the gift within a person, this is when an eagle takes flight. there is a soaring that takes place. So we have a gift, but our gift will only take us so far. The Spirit of God, the breath of the Lord must come and breathe on that gift, and then it will go the distance. And I love that so much. This is the place the Lord spoke to me. This is when the eagles take flight. Okay, so I'm going to pray at the end of this, and as you receive a new gift from the Lord, something special that you've been asking for, and maybe it's a gift that will launch a ministry for you, you have to wait for the timing of the Lord. You cannot try to soar outside of the wind of the Spirit. You'll be knocked down. You have to wait for the favorable wind of the Spirit and soar according to the Lord's design. You have to wait. So as we get a gift, we have to wait until the favorable wind comes. That is when the eagles take flight. Many in this hour will try to fly out of line and out of time, and few will wait for that favorable wind of the Spirit. Few will soar in His design. You and I, we want to be one of those few that will wait. You see it a lot right now. There's a real opportunity. It looks like it's opportunity to launch, and it looks like it's opportunity to fly. And for some people, it is opportunity, and they are in the very wind of God. They're in His breath He's blown on this, on their gift. But for some people, they're outside of His design, and it is dangerous. And I saw many like this in a very dangerous place, really being knocked down as they tried to fly because they were going against His design. So I'm encouraging you. This is not a fear to not do anything. This is just to make sure you're in line with His design. Where am I here? Those that try to take off out of time will crash, for there's no favor in taking advantage of vulnerability for the sake of competition. I'll go on. This has potential to ruin the atmosphere of vulnerability that the Lord has created, instead bringing fear and a lack of trust for the beloved. Popularity contests don't encourage vulnerability, they encourage competition. Vulnerability is complete in the atmosphere of honor and trust, preferring one over ourselves. We must be a safe place for people to dream, to heal, to fail, to succeed, to teach, to learn, to love, and to thrive. It's at the table people come to dream again. It's at the Lord's table. It's at a safe place. It's at when you meet somebody and you are comfortable with them and they are vulnerable with you and you can be vulnerable, there's a union that takes place and the person feels safe. Safety is very important. You see, many people haven't felt free because they haven't felt safe. Safety is very important. Being a safe place for people is necessary. This is what we're building. We're building a safe place. At the table, people come to dream again, hope fulfilled. It's at the table that we feel the Lord's great pleasure over us. Now, this can be expressed in small meeting settings, personal ministry, private, beautiful meetings that encourage the beloved to grow and shine. And I wrote this: those receiving these fireballs from the Lord will have the opportunity to wait for that favorable wind, and therefore the gift will go further than imaginable. Those who chose to exploit the gift will only go as far as the gift alone will take them. Let me read that again. Those who chose to exploit the gift will only go as far as the gift alone will take them. Now, some people are getting brand new gifts. Some people were born with their gift. They've been operating in it since they were born, since they were young. Some were born with it, and the Lord is just really firing it up within them. Some are getting new gifts, getting them fresh. Now, receiving a gift of joy, obviously, it's not one of those gifts where you have to wait for the favorable winds. I'm talking about other gifts that, launch you into certain type of ministry. We have to be very mindful of what hour it is and what God's doing and what God's not doing. We don't want to be a part of a competition or a popularity contest. We want to be doing the will of the Lord. It's very, very important. Now, I want to read a verse here. But before I do, I just felt this. I really want to mention Philemon. Read Philemon. It's so encouraging to me how Philemon is recognized basically as a safe place. And I had a dream with Bob Jones a couple years ago, and in it I heard an audible voice say to me, "And they will be like Philemon." And over the course of the last couple of years, I've come to realize that means, and they will be a safe place. They will be those who are bring refreshing to the body, those that are a resource and an encouragement to the body. That's what they'll be. They'll be like Philemon, those that are an encouragement. Wow, that's going to be a mighty day when we really learn to encourage each other, when we really learn to wait for God's design, when we learn to be a safe place and not compete for something, but just learn to just rest in his ways and let him blow on that gift and bring it as far as he's going to bring it. That's a good day when we learn to walk in that and we learn to model it. We learn to model it. You see, we got a harvest to bring in. The Lord will have his harvest. I'm telling you that. I know I can feel many of you going, will this happen? Because when the dark is dark, we're just crying out, Lord, come now. But there's going to be a mighty harvest. And we get to be a part of it. And we get to be a safe place for the harvest to come in. Wow. What an amazing thing. If you're sitting there right now and you're like, I don't know if I've really been a safe place. Well, it's time to start being one. Maybe you've been a safe place. That's what you do. You're going to continue in it. The Lord is going to breathe on that. We have already shifted into a new day. And the new day means that we are to be completely different. Things are going to be completely different than they were in the old day because the Lord burned up the old way, the old systems. The only thing we're carrying into this new day are those things that are of the character of God, those things that are of the heavenlies, those things that are of his Spirit. So we're carrying into this new day. You see, he's teaching us something about integrity in this hour. Something not talked about often enough, but integrity. We're learning something about that. I'm going to read this verse as I think it's important for right now, and I'm going to tell you why after I read it. 1 Corinthians 13:9 and 10 says this, "For we know in part and we prophesy in part, but when the perfect comes, the partial will be done away." And then it goes down to say, "For now we see in a mirror dimly," verse 12, "but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then I will know fully, just as I also have been fully known." So we have talked about this a lot in other video blogs, the importance of being known by God and the importance of knowing him, but being known by him. The Lord has been, as he's been burning up this old way, the old day, he has been preparing an atmosphere of vulnerability. An atmosphere of vulnerability. And when competition comes in, or fighting to be known, or fighting to have a voice, when this comes in, it destroys the atmosphere of vulnerability that the Lord has been creating. And we want to step into the atmosphere of vulnerability because it says, "For we see now in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then I will know fully, just as I have been fully known." You see, in the place of vulnerability, we see more. We don't just see in the little part anymore, but we're known and he's known. And it's the same thing when we're in a community of people where we allow an atmosphere of vulnerability to change us, to heal us, to transform us, that we're known and that the people around us feel known as well. It's necessary now. It's necessary for our freedom. The Lord is launching us into the new thing, submission and vulnerability. These are a part of this new thing, this new system. This is a part of it being one that is known in competition and working our way to the top. It is nonsense. Honestly, nonsense. The new day includes submission and vulnerability. I heard this morning. Many have been lulled to sleep. Revival is near. Will you be sleeping or will you be competing when it comes? You see, I'm asking that we would be submitted and vulnerable and not sleeping and not competing when revival really hits. I don't want to be a part of the world that's doing any of those other things. I want to be one of the ones that has said, no, I yield my ways to your ways. I submit to your design, Lord. And I want to be one of the ones that prepares an atmosphere of vulnerability where people feel free to create and free to fail, free to heal and free to do well. Wow, what an amazing thing when we have an atmosphere of vulnerability and we are encouraged when people do well. What a novel idea to encourage people to do well and be excited when they do. That'll change some things. Preferring one another, that will change some things. Let me read it again. Many have been lulled to sleep. A revival is near. Will you be sleeping or competing when it comes? Let me read this verse and I'm going to pray. Back to Isaiah 52. I started with this. Awake, awake. Clothe yourself in your strength, O Zion. Clothe yourself in your beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city. It's time to wake and not to slumber. We're not going to compete anymore. We're not going to sleep. We're going to be alive and well and ready for when the Lord shows us this is the time for revival. When it is 100% here and we're ready to move in it, we're going to move according to His design. The Lord will breathe on every single one of those gifts, and we will do just what He said we're going to do, and we will be those lights that shine. Let me pray. Lord, I thank you for each person watching right now. I thank you, Lord, that you've chosen them, to shine in this hour, that you're giving to them gifts. And I pray right now for each of them watching, I can feel some of their hearts going, Lord, I want the gift of joy. I've had sorrow for too long. I want the gift of discernment. I have no idea what's going on. I feel some of them saying, I want a gift of healing. And I'm there with you. I'm asking the Lord. I'm contending with God for the gift of healing. I'm hoping that that fireball is launched in my direction, that gift is healing that's coming. And if that's you, I'm praying that for you as well. I'm praying the Lord give you the desire of your hearts. I pray it. I pray His will be done in your life. And I pray for those of you that are hurting and your heart is broken. I pray that you would have opportunity to come into an atmosphere of vulnerability and be heard. That you'd come into a safe place and be known. I pray that for you in Jesus' name.